Hello my dear children, how are you all? Fine, very nice. Tell me children, what we discussed in our previous class? Yes, we discussed the story A Tiger in the House. Who was the writer? Very good, it was Ruskin Bond. Children, in our last class, we discussed the first part of the story. Before going to further in the story, let me just recall what we discussed in our previous class. I have noted here the main points of the first part. Let me just discuss it. It was the hunting expedition. We discussed that there was a hunting expedition. Now where it took place? Yes, it took place in the Tarai jungle near Dera. Grandfather was no shikari but knew the Tarai jungle very well. Now who were the part of that hunting expedition? There were so many persons from Delhi and they requested writer's grandfather to come with them. Why? Because writer's grandfather was no shikari. He was not a shikari, but he knew the Tarai jungle very well. That was the reason why grandfather was requested to accompany. Now the next point is the camp was sumptuous. Now the camp that was made for that hunting expedition, there were so many tents altogether. Especially 7 tents were made for shikaris. There was a very big dining tent and there was also so many tents for the servants. So it was a sumptuous camp. It was very expensive. व्ययबहुल जेमती आमे डिस्कशन करिथिले ना बहुत गुडाय टंका से कैंप प्रस्तुति पाई खर्च हेतिला. Along with that, the dinner was also very good. How was the dinner? The dinner prepared in the jungle, it was also very nice. 7 to 8 items in a single time. से कथा मध्ये आमे आलोचना करिथिले जे बहुत सारा आइटम्स एट ए टाइम जंगल भितरे एमती टेंट हाउस भितरे एते सब आइटम्स प्रिपेयर करिबा इट वाज वेरी डिफिकल्ट बट दे वर प्रिपेयरिंग दैट. सो इन दैट वे इट वाज कंपेयर्ड दैट इन द टाइम ऑफ द वाइसरॉयज द रॉयल पीपल वी डिस्कस ना वाइसरॉय रॉयल पीपल राजा महाराज मानक समय जेमती खाद्य सब सर्व करा जाउथला से कैंप रे मध्ये ठीक सेही भलिया खाद्य ही सर्व करा जाउथला. So that was the richness of that camp and the food style there. Then Timothy, the tiger cub, was discovered and brought home by grandfather. As we discussed that the hunting expedition, it went on and the main purpose of the hunting expedition was to find a tiger. It was very unfortunate that they were unable to find a tiger. But at last, who found a tiger? It was only grandfather who come across not a big tiger but a tiger cub. Now what do you mean by cub? A cub is a baby tiger. A baby tiger of 18 inches long. Grandfather, he discovered the tiger cub. From where do you remember? Yes, from the intricate roots of a banyan tree. The baby tiger, it was hiding itself and grandfather saw him and thought of taking the tiger cub to his home. So children, this was what we discussed in our previous class. Today we'll move on to the second part. As we all discussed that in the second part also there is a scene and there are some important characters. Let us discuss that first. Now, the plot of the story or the plot of this part of the story, the second part. Grandfather's house. In our first part, it was the Tarai jungle where the plot constructed. Now, it is the house of writer's grandfather where Timothy was kept as a pet and was brought up into a normal sized tiger. Now who are the characters here? The characters are writer's grandmother, Mahmud, a new character who was their cook, two other pets along with the tiger cub. There were two other pets. Who were they? One was Toto. Toto was a monkey, and the second one was a small mongrel puppy. So these were the characters of the second part of the story. Children, all of you open your books or look at the screen while I am reading this part of the story for you. Listen to me carefully. At first, the tiger cub, who was named Timothy by grandmother, was brought up entirely on milk given to him in a feeding bottle by our cook Mahmoud. But the milk proved too rich for him, and he was put on a diet of raw mutton and cod liver oil, to be followed later by a tempting diet of pigeons and rabbits. Next, Timothy was provided with two companions. Toto, the monkey, who was bold enough to pull the young tiger by the tail and then climb up the curtains if Timothy lost his temper, and a small mongrel puppy found on the road by grandfather. Moving next. At first, Timothy appeared to be quite afraid of the puppy and darted back with a spring if it came too near. Finally, he allowed the puppy to crawl on his back and rest there. The next paragraph. One of Timothy's favorite amusements was to stalk anyone who should play with him. And so, when I came to live with grandfather, I became one of the tiger's favorites. With a crafty look in his glittering eyes and his body crouching, he would creep closer and closer to me, suddenly making a dash for my feet, rolling over on his back and kicking with delight and pretending to bite my ankles. Next, he was by this time the size of a full-grown retriever, and when I took him out for walks, people on the road would give us a wide berth. When he pulled hard on his chain, I had difficulty in keeping up with him. His favorite place in the house was the drawing room, and he would make himself comfortable on the long sofa, reclining there with great dignity and snarling at anybody who tried to get him off. Next, Timothy had clean habits and would scrub his face with his paws exactly like a cat. He slept at night in the cook's quarters and was always delighted at being let out by him in the morning. Moving next. One of these days, declared grandfather in her prophetic manner, we are going to find Timothy sitting on Mahmud's bed and no sign of the cook except his clothes and shoes. Of course, it never came to that, but when Timothy was about 6 months old, a change came over him. He grew steadily less friendly. When out for a walk with me, he would try to steal away to stalk a cat or someone's Pekingese. Sometimes at night, we would hear frenzied cracking from the poultry house, and in the morning there would be feathers lying all over the veranda. Timothy had to be chained up more often. And finally, when he began to talk Mahmoud about the house with what looked like villainous intent, grandfather decided it was time to transfer him to the zoo. Next, the nearest zoo was at Lucknow, 200 miles away, reserving a first-class compartment for himself and Timothy. No one would share a compartment with them. Grandfather took him to Lucknow, where the zoo authorities were only too glad to receive as a gift a well-fed and fairly civilized tiger. So children, we had a model reading of this part of your text. Now, there must be some unfamiliar words that you may come across while reading this part of the text. Let us discuss the meanings of those words first. The meanings of the unfamiliar words. Children, look at it. Entirely. It means totally or completely. Tempting. Tempting means attractive or mouth watering. जहाँ पाई हमको लालायित फील हुए जो प्रकार खाद्य पाई, that is tempting or mouth watering. Companions, partners, friends. Temper means anger or fury, rago. Mongrel, it is a mixed breed or hybrid puppy. We can say that there is no particularly breed of this kind of animals. आमे जेमती कहूछु एठी पप्पी कथा कुआ गला. पप्पी means a small dog. Dog case रे आमे जेमती कहूछु बुल्ला कुकुर. So mongrel is that kind. No particular breed. कोनोसी breed रो से हे न थाए, but it was just like roaming outside. Darted, ran suddenly. हठात रे jump करिबा बा दौड़ी के आसीबा को darted कहा जाए. Stuck means follow or go after somebody quietly without making any sound. Quietly. Crafty, cunning or tricky. चालाक बोली जो कहा जाए. चतुर. Crouching, it means shrinking. Bend the knees. आंठुरे आंठु माड़ी की बसी की एमती गुडुंडी गुडुंडी चलीबा ताकू कहा जाए हमरो crouching. Shrinking, bend the knees and bring the upper body forward and down just like this. Animals मान को केस रे देखी थिबो से माने को कोणी को भांगी की बसी जांती आ धीरे धीरे चली गया आसंती. स्लो मूवमेंट, ट्रिकी मूवमेंट, से काइंड रो मूवमेंट को क्राउचिंग कहा जाए. मूविंग नेक्स्ट. डैश, it means rush or run. Again a flight, गोटे मूवमेंट, गोटे स्पीड अप मूवमेंट. साइलेंट पोजीशन रे थिबो बट हठात रे स्पीड अप हे जिवो. रनिंग करिवो बा रस रे जिवो. Retriever is a large dog with thick fur, maybe black or brown colored fur. Large sized dog, retriever. Recline, lie down. Snarl, show angry teeth. देखि थिबो एनिमल्स मान को जेते बेले इरिटेट करा जाए, विरक्त करा जाए, से माने तांकर रागटा को शो करंती by showing their teeth, sharp teeth. Just like that. Prophetic, predictive or like a prophet. Prophet, who are prophets? Who speak something about the future, upcoming future. आसंता आगामी भविष्यत विषय रे जो माने भविष्यवाणी करंती से मान को prophet कहा जाए. So prophetic means से परि भाबरे जे कुहे आगो को किछि घटिबार अछि जा विषय रे पूर्वरु कुहा जाए. Frenzied, furious or panic struck. आतंकित हेबा, भय रे आतंकित हेबा, अत्यधिक भयभीत हे जिबा. Intent means intention or aim, लक्ष्य किछि उद्देश्य जोडा को हमें कहि परिबा. So children, these are the meanings of the unfamiliar words. Now children, let us discuss the summary of this part of the story. Children, as we all know that the tiger cub, it was brought home by grandfather. But the name Timothy, this name, it was given by who? It was grandmother. Okay, dear children. Grandmother, with lots of love, gave the name Timothy to the tiger cub. Now, there was one more character in this part of the text who stays in the grandfather's house. He was the cook. What was his name? His name was Mahmud. Okay, children. Now, Mahmud, he was the caretaker of Timothy. He was given the charge of Timothy. Mahmud, he first of all put the tiger cub, rather Timothy, on milk. Timothy was given milk in a feeding bottle. Who gave it? Mahmud gave it. But what happened? Now that milk, it proved too rich for Timothy. It was changed to raw mutton and cod liver oil, followed by again a tempting diet of pigeons and rabbit. Tempting, जेमती कुहा गला माउथ वाटरिंग, हाँ, लोभ सृष्टिकारी. टिमोथी को कौन खाद्य दिया गला? टिमोथी को जो मिल्क दिया गला, it was not proper for him. So later on, it was changed. कोठी को चेंज करा गला raw mutton and cod liver oil, followed by a tempting diet of pigeons and rabbit. Clear, children? Look, Timothy was provided with 2 companions. There were 2 friends of Timothy in the grandfather's house. Now, who were the 2 friends? One was Toto. Look, Toto, the monkey. Toto was a monkey. Now, the monkey, that monkey was bold enough to pull the young tiger by the tail. Toto was enough courageous. बहुत अधिका साहसी थिला. केमिति साहसी थिला? Because he pulled the young baby tiger by its tail. बाघ छुआटाकू ता लांजो धरिकी भिडुथुला, ताकू टाणुथुला. He was courageous enough and then climb up the curtain if Timothy lost his temper. It was quite natural that Timothy, he was showing anger. କାହାର ଲାଞ୍ଜରା ଧରିକି ଭିଡ଼ିବ, ତାକୁ ତ ବିରକ୍ତ ଲାଗିବ, ସେ ରାଗି ଯିବ ହିଁ ସ୍ୱାଭାବିକ କଥା. ଟିମୋଥି ମଧ୍ୟ ରାଗି ଯାଉଥିଲା. And when Timothy was angry, Toto, he climbed the nearest curtain. Curtain उपरକୁ चढ़ी जाउथिला. This was the first friend of Timothy, Toto. Now, who was the second friend? A small mongrel puppy. A small puppy, छोटिया कुकुर. A small dog of mongrel, of no breed. जेमती कहिथिली रास्ता रे बुलुथुवा गोटे कुकुर, found on the road by grandfather. As we all know that grandfather, he was a lover of animals. He wanted to keep them as pets in his house. So one day he came across that puppy and also brought him to his home. Okay, children, moving next. At first, Timothy appeared to be quite afraid of the puppy and darted back with a sprig if it came too near. Finally, he allowed the puppy to crawl on his back and rest there. Now, what happened here? Now, in first days, Timothy, he really feared a lot the puppy, that mongrel puppy. ताको बहुत भय करुथला. Didn't allow the puppy to come closer to him. टिमोथी पाखकू जेतेले से पप्पीटा आसुथुला, से जंप करके पछुकू चली जाउथुला. He darted. Out of fear, he darted back. That puppy, when came closer to Timothy, Timothy darted back. पछकु दौड़िकी आसी जाउथुला. But later on, there was a very good friendship between these two, and to the utter surprisement, Timothy also allowed the puppy to crawl and rest on his back. Look children, how Timothy, he was given milk in a feeding bottle in the first days when Timothy was a small cub. But later on milk proved to be very rich. Digestion ता ପାଇଁ possible हेई पाला नहीं, तेणु ताको milk आउ दिया गला नहीं. Have a look how those two pets, two companions of Timothy, they were playing with Timothy. Now how Toto, the monkey, it was pulling the tail of Timothy and then climbing up the nearest curtain. देखि पारुथुबा केमिति से ताको हैरान करूथुला. How they were playing with each other. But later on, look how the mongrel puppy crawled on the back of the tiger and rested on it. देखि पारुथुबा एमानक भितरे परवर्ती समय रे जो फ्रेंडशिप ता थिला केमिति भाबरे डेवलप हेतिला, and how Timothy allowed the puppy to rest on his back. ठीक अछि. Now, being a part of the family, the grandfather's family, Timothy's favorite amusement, what makes him feel pleasure, was the only one thing: stuck anyone who should play with him. Who wanted to play with Timothy, Timothy stuck that person. Stuck means what? We discussed that go or follow behind somebody quietly. He wanted to follow anyone who wanted to play with him. Okay children? And now, earlier there were two friends of Timothy in the house. Now came a human friend of Timothy. Who was that human friend? That human friend was Ruskin Bond himself, a writer. When I means here Ruskin Bond, when the writer came to stay with grandfather, he also had a very good coordination with Timothy. Timothy ଆଉ writer को भितर मध्य गोटे भलो friendship develop ହେଲା, and the writer became one of the tiger's favorites. Now, with a crafty look, how Timothy played with the writer. Now, with a crafty look in his glittering eyes, crafty, जो cunning कथा कुहा गला, चतुर चाहाणी, in his glittering eyes, shining eyes, देखी थी वो generally बाघ किंबा बिलेई मानकर आखि गुडा को glowing थाए ना, glittering थाए, shining थाए. So with that glowing eyes and his body crouching, as I told you, bent on the elbows or knees, आंठू माड़ी की बसी जीवा आउ धीरे धीरे आगु को बढ़िबा. In that moment, he would creep closer and closer to me, towards the writer. He went closer and closer towards the writer in his crouching movement, and suddenly making a dash for my feet, and suddenly jumps on the writer's feet. It happened. It was just like a playful mood of Timothy. Then rolling over on his back touching the floor, slept there, rolled over there, and kicking with delight and pretending to bite my ankles, pretending छलना करिबा एमिति Timothy शो करथुला जेमिति कि से मते गोड़ को कामुडुथुला. But it was not happening really. It was just Timothy was trying to play with the writer, trying to come closer to the writer. तांको पाखकु आसुथुला, गुरुंठी आसुथुला, हठात जंप करिकी तांको गोड़ पाखकु आसुथुला, ट्राई करूथुला तांको गोड़टाकु कामुडीला भलिया शो करिबा पई. बट प्रकृत रे सेमति किछि करू नथला. It was just how Timothy was playing with the writer. From this also we could guess that the writer, he was one of the favorites of Timothy. Okay dear children? Now, by the time Timothy, he became By the time Timothy became the size of a full-grown retriever, gradually, with the passing time, Timothy, it grew in its size also. Now, it has become to a full grown-up dog. Got a dog, normal sized dog size को वर्तमान Timothy develop ही सारी थिला. Okay, dear children, look how the writer Boy Ruskin Bond was playing with Timothy, and now gradually Timothy has become a dog-sized animal. Okay, and how the whole family, they used to play with Timothy, stay with Timothy, the tiger. Isn't it quite amazing? But they were enjoying it. By the time Timothy has grown into a full-grown retriever. Okay, children? Retriever, the size of a dog. And it was quite difficult on the part of the writer to control Timothy. When both of them, they were on a walk, and when Timothy tried to pull the writer, he was unable to control him. Normally, tiger रो power बहुत अधिका थाए, potential बहुत अधिका थाए. जेते बेले से ताको टाणीबा पई चेष्टा करंती, writer ताको भिड़िकी धरिबाटा संभवपर हेई पारे नाही. So it was hard on his chains. I had difficulty in keeping up with him. ताको hold करिबा, ताको control करिबा. Writer को case it was quite difficult. His favorite place. Now, what was the favorite place? Important question hey paribo. Listen. The favorite place in the house of Timothy, which was the drawing room, where there was a big sofa, and Timothy, it makes himself comfortable on that long sofa, reclining, lying down there with great dignity and respect, and snarling at anybody who tried to get him off. Whoever told him to leave that space, Timothy showed his angry teeth towards that person. He never wanted to leave that area, leave that sofa, because he felt very much comfortable there. It was the favorite place of Timothy in the grandfather's house. That is the drawing room and the long sofa there. Okay. Timothy, it had clean habits, just like small cats, just like tiger. He scrubbed his face with his paw, and he usually slept with Mahmud. As I told you also, that Mahmud, he was the caretaker of Timothy. He was given the whole charge of Timothy. Timothy also slept with Mahmud in his servant's quarter, and always it was a habit of Mahmud to take Timothy in the morning for a walk. Both of them, they went. Okay, dear children. Now, as time moved on and Timothy, it was growing up in its size, gradually it was developing the natures and habits of a wild tiger. Now, one day, it was a grandfather who told in his prophetic manner that definitely such a moment will come when in the servant's quarter where Mahmud was sharing the bed or sharing the room with Timothy, there would be no Mahmud in the morning. Only there would be no sign of the cook in the morning. Only there would be the clothes and shoes. No sign of Mahmud. They expected that this could happen. Rather, grandfather, he in his prophetic manner, giving in his about the future, he told that this also may happen. Se mane anuman kariba ko arambha kale ba grandfather anuman kariba ko arambha kale that jo way Timothy growth hothula, jemiti taro development changes asutula, So it also may happen that gote dino sakhale dekhla bele ke cook out room re nathiba, only there would be the clothes and shoes of that cook. Okay. Of course, it never came to that. Such thing never happened in reality. But when Timothy was about 6 months old, remember children, when Timothy was about 6 months old, there was a change came over. Gradually, as I told you, that the wild tiger, it was starting to develop the natures, the wildness of a tiger. Gradually, it was happening. And when they were on a walk, the tiger, it always tried to steal away, stuck anyone's pet cat or pet Pekingese. Pekingese means pet dog. It always tried to steal. It always tried to stuck on anyone's pet cat and Pekingese. And at sometimes at night, they also heard the frangid crackling from the poultry house. That means Timothy also attacked on the poultry house, from where there was the franging cracking sounds, and naturally in the morning there would be feathers lying all over the veranda. They were feathers of hens and cocks. That means at night Timothy showed its wild nature and entered into the poultry farm, and then eaten the cocks and hens. They started happening gradually. Now finally grandfather, he thought, now as Timothy it was starting to show his wild character, starting to show a villainous eyes towards Mahmud, the cook who was the caretaker of Timothy. When the tiger is showing villainous intent to Mahmud, the caretaker, now grandfather thought Timothy should be shifted to a zoo now, as it is now a full grown up tiger. They thought that he should be shifted to the zoo now. The nearest zoo, it was, remember children, at Lucknow, which was 200 miles away from the writer's house or from Dera. Reserving a first class compartment because no one would like to share a compartment with a wild tiger, a big sized tiger. Isn't it quite furious? किए मध्य गोटे टाइगर सहित ट्रेन रे जर्नी करिबा पई पसंद करिवो कि भय तो लागिबो, स्वाभाविक कथा। राइटर को फैमिली सहित सी एक्वांटेड हे जाइछि, तेणु सेमानक फैमिली को हुए तो किछि भय न लागि पारे, बट अदर कंपेनियन माने जो माने ट्रेन रे थिबे जर्नी करला समय सेमानक तो भय लागिबो। सो grandfather, he booked a first class compartment for himself and for Timothy, and finally grandfather took him to Lucknow, where he left him in the zoo. The zoo authorities, they were very happy because they came to they received a gift, a well-fed and fairly civilized tiger. They were very happy to have Timothy in their zoo because Timothy, naturally, he was well-fed and fairly civilized. So they were very happy, and at last grandfather, he left Timothy in the zoo. Question answers. Answer the following questions in a word or phrase. Listen to me carefully and answer these questions. Question number 1. Who named the tiger cub as Timothy? Very good. Grandmother. Okay, children? Grandmother. Number 2. Who was Mahmud? Very good. The cook. Number 3. Who brought Timothy up? Yes, it was Mahmud only. Mahmud. Okay, children. Number 4. What was the tempting diet for Timothy? Very good. It was pigeons and rabbits. Okay, children. Number 5. Who were Timothy's companions at home? Very good. Toto the monkey and a mongrel puppy. Toto the monkey and a small mongrel puppy. Okay, children. Let us move next. Next question is, who was bold enough to pull Timothy by the tail? Tell me, who was it? Very good. It was Toto the monkey. Okay, children. Number 7. Which was Timothy's favorite place in the house? Where there was a long sofa, Timothy loved to recline there. Very good. The drawing room. Okay, children. Number 8. Where did Timothy slept at night? Very good. In Mahmud's quarter or in the cook's quarter. Okay, children. Number 9. At what age a change came over Timothy? Very good. When Timothy was 6 months old. At 6 months. Okay, children. Number 10. Where was the nearest zoo? Very good. In Lucknow. Okay, children. Last but not the least, who took Timothy to Lucknow Zoo? Yes, it was grandfather. Okay, children. Today we discussed the second part of the story, A Tiger in the House. Children, the rest part of the story we'll discuss in our next class. This much for today. Thank you, children. Bye-bye.